Coming up on Network Africa, President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe names a new army chief, former Major General Emmanuel Matutu. Ghanaian President John Mahama visits Nigeria to brief ECOWAS chairman regarding his diplomatic efforts with the military junta leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Plus, the United Nations warns that Rwanda-backed rebels could seize more provinces in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hello and welcome to the program. It's the last edition for the week. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in Zimbabwe, where President Emerson Mnangagwa has appointed a new army chief ahead of planned protests on Monday that was called by a group of war veterans who want to force the president to resign. The former Major General Emmanuel Matutu takes over with immediate effect. President Mnangagwa has faced calls from his former supporters to step down, citing mismanagement and corruption. Earlier this week, President Mnangagwa abruptly retired his army chief, appointing him Sports and Arts and Culture Minister. Meanwhile, the security minister in the country has warned Zimbabweans against taking part in the demonstrations. The police have also announced the 4-day ban around the capital on the carrying of weapons or any instruments that can be used to cause violence. Let's get more on this. Joining us now is Zimbabwean journalist Nigel Yamutumbu. He joins us now from Harare. Hello, Nigel. What is the president's reason for changing his army chief and swiftly naming a new person?
The temptation in dissecting the political question in Zimbabwe is to draw linkages between what a former member of the ruling party, ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe, and a veteran of the liberation struggle, Blessed Geza, has been saying, has been making political statements, and to juxtapose that with the move by President Mnangagwa to retire his army chief to join the executive. However, there is no substantial evidence that links the two from each other outside the political connotations and the political discourse that is obtaining in Zimbabwe, emanating from reported factions and elite discohesion in the ruling party, where it is believed that there is one faction that is aligned with President Emerson Mnangagwa, and which has been at the forefront of calling that he stays on in power beyond the 2028 presidential term limit. And the one that is reportedly aligned with Vice President Vice President Chiwenga, who apparently is touted as among the leading contenders to succeed President Mnangagwa. So it is really a developing story in respect to ascertaining whether this elite discohesion and what has been happening in the public sphere has actually anything to do with the move by President Mnangagwa to retire his army chief. It is actually still also not clear whether the purported plan to organize and mobilize citizens on the 31st of March, as has been doing rounds, will actually yield any meaningful political impact. That is still out there for the jury. But what is certain is there is some discohesion and discord within the ruling elite, which hopefully can be resolved peacefully and amicably.
Yes, Nigel, and we've also seen that, President Mnangagwa is under fire. Talk to us about this group of war veterans who are saying they're planning a protest for Monday, to force the president to resign.
What is unclear is whether it is actually a group of war veterans as is being represented or fronted by the expelled member of the Central Committee within the ruling party. It is not yet clear whether his message is resonating with the rank and file of the war veterans who actually have an arm within the ruling party. So it is, and because he has been now making these statements from a location that is not disclosed, and also it is evident that it may be a political strategy that they are employing to put pressure on President Mnangagwa's administration to at least either come to the negotiating table with these disgruntled members or to really get the political transition or discourse on the same or the succession issue resolved. So at this particular stage, we can only deal especially from a journalistic point of view, with information that is verifiable. And what we know, it has been one member who has been really at the forefront and has been hogging the limelight, particularly on social media, and a few others that have tried to do press conferences here and there. Whether that is going to resonate with first the war veterans themselves and the generality of the public heeding his political call to action is out there for the jury and for us to be following and to see what that would result in. So this is where we are at this particular stage, and we are waiting to see the political developments as they develop on Monday.
All right, then, till Monday, Nigel Yamutumbu, Zimbabwean journalist, thank you so much. We're back here in Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has identified the need for security in the Sahel and economic development of ECOWAS as reasons to keep a bridge between the two regions open. Well, the president was speaking after receiving the president of Ghana, John Mahama, at the State House, Abuja. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, reports that President Mahama's visit was to brief President Tinubu, who is also the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, on his recent visit to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Briefing journalists, the Ghanaian leader said he was in Nigeria to keep Mr. Tinubu updated on diplomatic efforts with the military junta leaders aimed at addressing regional security and stability. Well, this is President Mahama's first visit to Nigeria since his inauguration on January 7.
Twofold: to thank him for the honor done me during my inauguration, but also to brief him on a visit I made to the Sahelian countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and to bring him up to date with some of the issues that I discussed with him. As ECOWAS chairman, it's my duty to come and brief him on some of the concerns that were raised there, so that we continue to see how to dialogue with those other countries. Well, it's a complicated situation, and it's not as easy as we might think, but we just need to continue to dialogue and see how we can continue to cooperate together.
I feel good that he's here in the first place, and I'm indeed very happy of the effort is made to have a bridge between the AES countries and the ECOWAS. It's not a bad idea for us because of the security situation in the Sahel region and what economic opportunity that we must embark to ensure security of life and properties of our citizens. The innocent people in this episode are the citizens of those countries. Not much about us, the leadership. The citizens must be the first, beneficiary and the first part of reasons together.
In Egypt, authorities have questioned the crew of a tourist submarine which sank in the Red Sea, killing 6 of the 45 passengers on board on Thursday. The 39 other passengers and 5 crew members were rescued after the Simbad vessel foundered at about 10 a.m. local time. Officials say 9 people have been injured, including 4 critically. The group had been on board the sightseeing vessel, viewing coral reefs off the resort town of Hurghada. 2 children are among the 6 Russian tourists killed, even as the cause of the incident is unclear. The Simbad vessel has been in operation as a tourist submarine for a number of years. The Red Sea governor, Amir Hanafi, said the 45 passengers on board were from Russia, India, Norway and Sweden, while all the 5 crew members were Egyptians. Meanwhile, Governor Amir Hanafi has visited the injured tourists in a hospital in Hurghada where they are recuperating following the tragic incident of the Simbad submarine accident. The head of Egypt's Red Sea Governorate went round the health facility talking to the wounded patients that included children. 6 Russian citizens have been confirmed dead and others injured. An investigation, according to authorities, is underway to find out what happened and caused the accident. Well, let's switch now to the crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Rwandan-backed rebels now control large parts of eastern Congo and threaten to expand their offensive west into 2 neighboring provinces. And this is according to the top United Nations official in the conflict-torn country. In a briefing to the UN Security Council on what she called the alarming situation in Congo, Ms. Bintou Keita pointed to the M23 rebels' installation of an administration in South Kivu and a mining delegate in North Kivu, another link between decades-old conflicts in eastern Congo and the illegal exploitation of its mineral riches. The UN Special Representative for Congo also cited the dire situation of tens of thousands of people fleeing the M23 offensive and the massive human rights violations against civilians.
To the Africa-led process to give us the way forward.
Le contexte politique et sécuritaire reste tendu en raison de l'expansion dans l'est de la République démocratique du Congo, de l'Alliance Fleuve Congo AFC et du mouvement du 23 mars M23, soutenu par les forces de défense rwandaises. In February and March, the AFC M23, backed by the Rwandan Defense Forces, advanced further in North and South Kivu.
In the meantime, the World Food Programme says the Democratic Republic of Congo is facing its worst hunger crisis ever, with 27.7 million people in acute food insecurity. Jean-Martin Bauer, WFP's Director of Food Security and Nutrition Analysis, says this is an unprecedented level, the highest level on record seen in the country. The food crisis is being fueled by a sharp escalation in violence and instability in eastern DRC, which has triggered widespread displacement, disrupted trade, and also paralyzed banking systems. 3.9 million people are now classified in IPC Phase 4 as emergency levels of food insecurity, with the situation especially dire for internally displaced populations.
Food prices have gone up, everything.
The data shows that 27.7 million people in the DRC are facing acute food insecurity. This is an unprecedented level. This is the highest level on record that we've seen in the country. Since December, we've seen these accelerated displacement in the east of DRC. We've seen a disruption to trade and markets. Banks in the east of DRC have been closed. That's causing a liquidity crisis that's having an impact on commodity prices. It's having an impact on people's ability to survive and to implement their livelihoods. The insecurity is also affecting farming in the east of the DRC. So the situation is bad now. It could possibly get worse. Give you the highlights again: 27.7 million people in IPC phases 3 and 4 in DRC, 3.9 million in phase 4. The problem is concentrated in the east of the DRC. The IDP population, the internally displaced population, is quite affected. And we've seen an increase of 2.5 million people since the last time we did an IPC in the DRC.
Yeah, pretty bleak picture. I'm talking to you from Kinshasa, the capital. I have spent time in Goma, and it's really hard to basically understand the fact that this isn't also a new crisis. This has been going on for decades. Others will tell you that, they are now having to sell what little they have to find food. Many will go without food to feed their children. They're forced into malnutrition, high risk of disease and mortality. Let's not forget that we already have cases of Mpox, more than 80,000, and cholera, more than 7,000. Crime has reached an alarming level. We have seen that security has just paralyzed the local economy. And as Jean-Martin mentioned, banks are shuttered, shops are shuttered. And, this has had a massive knock-on effect on the local population, who are just also living in this climate of fear, of deep uncertainty.
Let's take a break now on Network Africa. Still to come. On our Africa Tech segment, we discuss cybersecurity on the continent. Please join us again. Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. Authorities in 7 African countries have arrested 306 suspects and seized over 1,800 devices in a major international crackdown on cyber-enabled scams. Between November 2024 and February 2025, Operation Red Card targeted cross-border fraud networks exploiting mobile banking, investment platforms and messaging apps, with more than 5,000 victims identified. In Nigeria, where a majority of the arrests took place, police arrested 130 people, including 113 foreign nationals, for online scams and investment fraud. Authorities suspect some workers were trafficked and forced into cybercrime seizures, included 26 vehicles, 16 houses and 685 devices. Well, authorities also arrested many people in South Africa, Zambia and Rwanda. Other participating countries were Benin, Cote d'Ivoire and Togo, with officials stressing that ongoing collaboration is essential to combat the growing threat of cyber fraud in Africa. Well, joining us now for more discussions on this and how we can keep ourselves safe online is Uche Onyekwe, cybersecurity specialist. He joins us from Ontario, Canada. Thank you for joining us on Africa Tech.
Thanks for having me.
Well, what does this Operation Red Card now reveal about cyber-enabled scams in Africa, especially in countries like Nigeria, South Africa, and Zambia?
Absolutely. The Operations Red Card has showed us something really deep and worrisome. It is only revealing that cybercrime in Africa is no longer just an internet fraud. It has now become a full-blown industry. A syndicate that runs now like startups, like actual 9-to-5s, where they have job titles, they have job roles, they run shifts, and even onboarding programs. Now you can see in places like Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia, that the boys are moving from Gmail scams now and Yahoo scams to actual fake crypto platforms and real investment platforms with the whole social media strategies around it. So it's pretty much an organized syndicate, it's an organized crime. And let's be real, the poverty in these communities is really a major contributing factor to what is going on today. You can imagine a guy who barely finished secondary school today is suddenly pulling up with a Mercedes-Benz, holding an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and chilling with the what would call the big girls. So it has become a local. He becomes a local legend, and he becomes celebrated amongst his peers. So we now hear of Yahoo incubator. So it's actually an organized incubating program, and we see parents actually sending their children and sponsoring them to go learn some of these internet crimes. So really, it's a major issue. It's one that is worrisome, and it's one that needs to be tackled really from basically an organized point of view.
Well, here in Nigeria, we saw that 113 foreign nationals were arrested and, amid reports of trafficking. And it's quite clear from what you've said, it's quite prevalent, the link between human trafficking and these cybercrime syndicates in Africa. This Operation Red Card also identified over 5,000 victims identified. So it's possible that there are other victims that are not known. How can individuals, keep themselves safe online to not fall prey to this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the truth is we now have a situation where these crimes are becoming, we are moving from actually trafficking human beings for labor, for housework, to trafficking them for cyber crimes. And you see a situation where a young guy is pulled into something he knows nothing about. He pulls into a compound somewhere, and he's found himself running a romance scam with 50 other people. So it's basically a digital shop now, a boot camp with no exit strategy. And like I said before, crime has majorly contributed to this. And one of the ways that we can protect ourselves really is by having this firewall amongst us, right? Seeing ourselves as a digital protector. For instance, doubling our income and learning these technical skills within ourselves. So being digitally aware, it's not really something that has to do with you learning a technical skill. It's something that we need to see as part of us, right? We need to be very wary of emails that we receive, of links that we click on our phones, of messages that we receive on our phones, and ensure that we're asking questions. You're taking a second look at whatever it is that we receive on our cell phones, because really, the entry point is your digital devices, right? And then our value systems. We need to consciously begin to change our value systems, and that demands us going really to the root of this problem, to begin to talk to the younger ones from a very early age on the need to learn some of these skills, not just to use them for negative reasons, but to understand that these skills are something that they would need to better their lives, so that when they grow up, they don't use the skills the wrong way into learning internet fraud, but they can actually use these skills to pick up high-paying jobs. They can become freelancers on platforms like Upwork, lots of them, freelancing.io, Fiverr, and make money for themselves. So, I say it all the time that learning a test skill today can be likened to, becoming a mechanic. If you become a mechanic, you have a skill that puts food on your table for the rest of your life. And that's the way we should approach learning tech skills. It's at a continent. We have the people, we have the intelligence, we have smart dudes, and we need to begin to change our value system to make children understand that we can use these skills for something better versus using it for cyber crimes.
All right then, Uche Oyenepe, cybersecurity specialist. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you.
And finally, on the program, volunteers in South Africa are providing purified water to fasting Muslims in Johannesburg, and it's amid an escalating water crisis. It's Ramadan relief for many of the people benefiting from this service.
Muslims in Johannesburg, South Africa, organized an initiative to provide bottled water to locals observing Ramadan amid an escalating water crisis in the city.
Some areas don't have actual clean water, like purified water. They have water that comes out from the taps, but it's so grey that it's not possible for home or domestic or personal use. So that's the reason why we took this initiative to supply the water as well.
Johannesburg has been struggling with a severe water crisis since 2015, driven by poor water management, drought and climate change. Nearly half of the city's water supply gets lost before reaching residents, with some going for days without water.
There is a need for this water in the smaller musallas, especially in the rural areas, in the underprivileged areas. The reason is they have a lot of water shedding, and the problem is sometimes at iftar time the water shuts down. So that's the reason we have also decided to give the smaller musallas an opportunity to distribute this water. And they use it for iftar, and some musallas even use it for the Tarawih prayers.
Volunteer Tamanda Nyirenda works at a bottling facility, purifying and filling water into bottles for distribution. The packages are delivered into the Sprit View and Ways Karni Islamic centers before iftar time, while Muslims break their fast.
This masjid, alhamdulillah, every day more than 55 people they are coming for iftar. So there's people they are coming from poor area, they don't have food in their houses, they don't have anything. So when they get here, iftar and eat, alhamdulillah, they are helping people for iftar in this water, because you know Rasulullah said, one who give you water, who is fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him, will forgive him, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him Jannah, inshallah.
Rand Water, a major bulk water supplier, warns that its systems are rapidly deteriorating due to extremely high water usage. It urged Johannesburg and Swane residents to limit consumption to avoid system collapse, which would impact other areas.
And that's it on the program for today and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde. Have a lovely weekend.